Practice exam number 13. Suppose that a regulatory agency will propose that Congress cut federal funding to a metropolitan area if its mean level of NOx is unsafe, that is, if it exceeds 5. The agency gathers sample NOx concentrations on 60 different days and calculates a test of significance to assess whether the mean level of NOx is greater than 5. Suppose the agency concludes that the mean level of NOx exceeds 5. Which of the following is true? Let's first of all set up this, this hypothesis testing and what they're actually doing. And I drew it out for us. So the null hypothesis is that, again, there's no difference, right? So they're saying that the NOx level is 5 and no higher, right? And then the alternative, they're testing if it's actually greater than 5. Because if it's greater than 5, then the NOx level is unsafe. And in this question, what they decided, or what they concluded, was that the NOx level was higher than 5, so they rejected the null, right? So it says here in the last part, the last sentence, the agency concludes that the mean level of NOx exceeds 5. Again, so that's why we reject the null. Okay, so going back to this question, this is a question about type 1 and type 2 errors. If we review type 1 and type 2 error, a type 1 error exists or occurs when the null hypothesis is true, but we reject the null hypothesis by mistake, or our data was off. But in fact, our null is true, and we rejected it based on, you know, the test that we made. So what that means is, if my null hypothesis is, in a courtroom setting, if my null hypothesis is somebody's innocent, and then my alternative hypothesis is that they're guilty, what that means is we rejected that the person is innocent, and we accepted the alternative that he's guilty. But that person is actually innocent. We made there's a mistake. And so that's when a type 1 error occurs, when we put an innocent man to jail. A type 2 error occurs when the alternative is true. Okay, so the alternative, again, in a courtroom setting, is that they're guilty, but we accept that they're innocent. So what this means is we put a guilty man back out in the world. We don't convict them of anything. So that's like O.J. Simpson, basically. O.J. Simpson, for all intents and purposes, was guilty, but we accepted that he was innocent. So that was a type 2 error, the O.J. Simpson case, from many people's opinions. So in this question, if we looked at how it's set up, they rejected the null, right? And they accepted the alternative. Of the type 1 and type 2 errors, of the 2 errors that you have, there's only one of the errors that you could possibly have made, because, again, you reject the null in type 1 error, but you accept the null in type 2 error. So because we're rejecting the null in this question, we reject the null that the NOx level is 5, we could have made a type 1 error, right? Now, could we have made a type 2 error here? Because it says that the null is accepted for a type 2 error. We don't accept the null here. So check it out. We do not accept the null. We reject the null. All right, so going back to the questions, let's look at the 4 options that we have. It says neither a type 1 nor a type 2 error could have been committed. That's not true. One of the errors were committed, right? We know that it might have been a type 1. In B, it says we definitely did not make a type 1 error, but a type 2 error may have been committed. So type 1, or B, is not right, because a type 1 definitely could have been committed. So it's the other way around. It's we definitely did not make a type 2 error. So we definitely did not make a type 2 error, but a type 1 error may have been committed. Again, because in a type 1 error, we reject the null hypothesis. And in this particular situation, we did reject the null hypothesis. But the null hypothesis could have been true. That's why it might be a type 1 error, or that might be an error. And D, it says we may have made both a type 1 and type 2 error. So and D is not true, because you can, in this particular situation, there's only one error that you could have possibly have made. I hope that's clear. If this isn't clear, still come to the Math Lab and ask for help.